So my grandfather started his career as a transit cop, a New York police officer in the middle of Manhattan. And he was the one responsible for making sure that the subway system in New York City was safe. And it was just wild. My grandfather would come back to me, on the weekends, and he would see me, and he would tell me, about different stories that he had in the New York City subway. He told me this one story about this, there was a flood in one of the subway stops. It was pouring rain, and they had a really poor system of drainage back then. This is going way back in the 1940s and 50s. There were a bunch of people in the subway when there was this flood. He went on in and he swooped these young kids out and saved their lives from the subway from this flood. And I was just, wow, just an unbelievable story. He had so many of these stories he told me that over the years as a transit cop. And I said, wow, how could I apply that to my life? How could I save people, whether it's, physically or it's through a problem? After he was a transit cop, he went into business. He started selling costume jewelry in the streets of Brooklyn, where he grew up. My grandfather grew up in Brooklyn, and he had my father and my uncle, and they grew up in Coney Island, in the Coney Island projects. And my grandfather taught my father very well about entrepreneurship his whole life, selling costume jewelry on the street, selling socks, selling earrings, selling necklaces, and my father would go along with him. And my father, at like 10 years old, was making, hundreds of dollars a week on selling socks. And he told my father, listen, you could do it. My grandfather also told my dad, you should get a job too. How about you start working at Nathan's? Nathan's, the famous hot dog stand in Brooklyn, in Coney Island specifically. So my dad worked at Coney Island through the advice of my grandfather. And my grandfather would tell my dad each day, how many hot dogs did you sell today? Did you make some really great sales of those crinkle cut French fries? And my dad would tell my grandfather, yeah, Dad, my line was always the longest because I made the French fries well done, and everyone loved French fries very well done. So he would come back each day and he would tell my grandfather how much sales he had, just great stories that my grandfather told me over the years. And then my grandfather really inspired me. He said, Rich, I taught your dad all this stuff over the years about my jobs. Not only being a cop and selling jewelry, but also I was in the fence business. I sold fences to people around their yards. And he would be out and about each day selling in the store and going out in the field. My grandfather had so many jobs to support my dad and his brother and my grandma. My grandfather would tell me, I worked 7 days my whole life. I never had a day off, and I would be constantly working, and I wanted to keep busy. That's something that my grandfather taught me. I worked 7 days my whole life. You could work hard. If you work very hard, you could do it. You could succeed in life. And it's about supporting your family, right? It's all about, my whole family is all about supporting other members of my family.